It's time for another episode of MoState Update, the official podcast of Missouri State Athletics. Now, here's your host, the new voice of the Bears, Corey Riggs.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of MoState Update, the official podcast of Missouri State Athletics. I am your host, Corey Riggs. Thrilled to be back with you after a week off last week. So, we have got a supersized show for you on this episode. Three different interviews for you today, covering a couple of different sports. After our first break, we will dive into the pool and talk things over with the longtime head coach of Missouri State men's and women's swimming and diving, Dave Collins, as they are just on the edge of starting their season here at home in the Hammond Student Center pool against Southern Illinois this weekend. So first we'll talk to Coach Collins, then we will jump over to Plaster Stadium and talk football, not once but twice, as we get the pleasure of talking to both the offensive and defensive coordinators for Missouri State football. First, the defensive side of the ball. We'll talk to LD Scott about his time as a player, transitioning to a coach, and what this team is like this season that he's working with on the defensive side of the ball. After LD, we'll sit down with offensive coordinator Nick Petrino, and we'll talk about everything from his high school career to what he expects this week as the Bears are getting prepared for their first ever Wednesday night game against Middle Tennessee the following week. So it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of football, a lot of swimming and diving, and we hope you'll all will stick around for it. We're going to take our first break, and when we come back, Dave Collins from Missouri State Swimming and Diving will be our guest here on MoState Update. Welcome back to MoState Update, everybody. As we get ready to go in episode number 25, we're thrilled to be joined by the gentleman who has won 15 conference titles in his time as head coach here. 12 times he has been the conference coach of the year as he handles things for Missouri State men's swimming and diving. Dave Collins joins us now. Coach, how are we doing?
Thanks for having me, Corey. We're great, man. I was just telling somebody the other day how exciting this school year. I know we've been going maybe a month and a half or so, but just the energy on campus is just very exciting. So we're just ready to go.
It really is, for people that maybe aren't here on a daily basis like you and I are lucky enough to be. It is a different vibe on campus. It is a different feeling. Ryan Beard likes to say it all the time on his coach's show. This is the best time ever to be a Bear, and I have a hard time disagreeing with him.
I would agree. I mean, the energy is just different, and I think even around the students and around town. I mean, we're on beer cans now, for goodness sakes. I mean, we're everywhere, and it's very, very exciting. So I agree.
Well, let's start with the fact that, and it's easy to say, you've seen quite a bit in your time on campus. Now, you have been a part of the swimming and diving program here for 15 years. You were interim head coach your first year, and now getting ready for what, year 14, 15 here?
Yeah, somewhere in there. I came in the fall of 07, so whatever that math backs up to be. But I'll give you a funny story as we begin the beginning of our season this year. It reminds me of that first season. I'm a assistant coach for Jack Steck. Mm-hmm. I don't know anything. I came after 1 year at Parkview and just was lucky to have the job. We open our season against Truman State on a Friday night. We got beat. We're in having practice Saturday morning. I go out to the water fountain over in Hammond Student Center, and Bill Rowe meets me at the water fountain. And this was my first time meeting Bill Rowe, and he wasn't excited as I was to meet him. He said, "How in the world did we get beat by Northeast Missouri?" Which I guess was what Truman State was prior to that. And I was speechless, didn't know what to say. But I said, "Coach, you're right, and we will never get beat by them again." And that has held true. But I still have PTSD when I go to that water fountain. That Coach Rowe might be right there to tell me we need to do better.
That would be an intimidating first meeting with him, who is just widely considered just one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. 100% Bear through and through. But man, I had contract negotiations with him early on in my career for the TV rights, and it was intimidating, to say the least.
Yes, and we're now good friends, and he's a huge supporter. But that was my first encounter, and I was a nervous little guy at that point.
Well, talk to me about the changes for you all. Obviously, everybody on campus and all the fan base is talking about, the move to Conference USA, But as I often remind people, it doesn't affect everybody. It's affecting the campus-wide. It's affecting a ton of programs, but it's not affecting yours. The women have been in the Valley for quite some time. As a matter of fact, you've won 12 Missouri Valley Conference women's swimming and diving titles, but now the men's team is also a part of the Valley, and that's a change.
Right, yeah. So the men had been in the MAC conference for quite some time, and this past year was our first year having men's swimming back in the Valley. There was men's swimming back in the early 2000s, but then we went to the MAC, and now we're back. So you're right. Yeah, it's been interesting as the department is obviously promoting the Conference USA change, and we're still in the Valley. However, we're still seeing the benefit of the move, even though it's a little bit indirect, because we're seeing an increase in resources. We're seeing an increase in some budgetary things and things that are going to help our program, and even just elevating the department as a whole. Our reach is extended, even though we're still in the Missouri Valley Conference with swimming. So it's a good move, and we're just as excited as everybody else, but we are still trying to win Valley championships.
Well, and that's all going to start, this weekend, right? You're getting ready to host your season opener here at the Hammond Student Center pool with Southern Illinois coming to town.
Yeah, we're always excited when we get to compete against Southern Illinois. We've got a long history of some very good meets, and so they'll be bringing their squad in, and they're well coached. They had a great year last year, so I anticipate it being a very, very challenging meet for us. But we're really excited to get started. And we've got 9 new faces on the men's side. So, that's almost half the team of 22. So, it's going to be fun to watch them race for the first time. Our women's team, we've graduated a lot of our upper-end talent the last couple of years. So what we're challenging our women's team with is who's going to be that next group of athletes that's going to step up and really be top end for us. So that'll be fun to watch.
And you've got a good complement again this year of local swimmers. I feel like maybe more on the women's side than the men's. Yeah,
we've got a few more on the women's side than the men's, but we've got a leader on the men's side in Lucas Chadwell, who's a Glendale product, and we kept him in town, and he's one of our top sprinters, and really going to be a big time athlete for us this year.
When you look at the schedule, you've got Southern Illinois for 2 nights or for 2 days here. I assume the duel in the pool is still on the schedule. Your meet every year with your alma mater, Drury, going back and forth, usually kind of a home and home deal with them.
Yep, we're doing that in January. So we'll be at Drury on Friday night, and then we'll be at Hammond's on Saturday. So that's always, it's always close. It seems like it always comes down to the last race. Brian's always got those guys ready to go, and it comes at a good time in January as we're kind of putting the finishing touches on the season as we lead into the championship meets.
Well, and I would say it does change quite a bit as the season goes on, and help me remember and help fans remember too. So when we talk about the postseason, you've got a conference postseason meet, but you also have the end goal is those NCAA meets. Is there only one way to get into the NCAA meets? How does the qualification work across the course of the season that you have?
Right. So, the way our season is built, and it is different than other sports because we're really solely judged on what we do during a 4-day period in mid to late February and then March.
Wow.
So really everything we do leading up to that is more for coaches and athletes to evaluate what we're doing in training. And so, I think that's something that is unique because we'll go months and months and months without anything really mattering as far as the outcome of the season. So this meet against Southern Illinois, we're super competitive. We want to win that meet very badly. But more than that, we're using it to evaluate and watch our athletes in a meet atmosphere, see how the training up to this point has set them up, or if there's things we need to adjust, so we're still figuring things out at this point. As we get towards February, March, it gets to be very, very important. The conference championship is huge for us. Right now, there's no automatic qualifier for the NCAA championships coming out of conference. There was talk about that, but it kind of got tabled. So really, you got to go fast enough to be one of the top 25 to 30 athletes in your event.
Well, and when you look at it this year, we talked about the roster a little bit, the turnover. How long does it take you with, like you said, 9 new faces on the men's side? How long does it take you to get a baseline set up on those guys and then be able to start moving the pieces around, say, for relays?
Right. Corey, I'll tell you this. It has not taken long.
Okay.
I mean, these guys, we talked about this at the first meeting of the school year, was there's going to be a new standard with our men's team. And, we've had opportunities to win conference championships. We've done that. But we want to create a new standard. And our returning guys, we're really excited. We've got 4 dynamic freshmen that we feel like we really hit some diamonds in the rough on. And then we've got 5 transfers coming in that are all really, really hungry and have a chip on their shoulder with some things to prove. So the standard to me was raised the first time we hit the water, and practices have been, the energy and the intensity of practice has been unmatched from anything I can remember.
No, and the standard's always been high going back to your predecessor. I mean, Jack was one of one, and a guy that really kind of made sure to elevate this brand in a sport that maybe doesn't get the attention that a football or a basketball does. But the expectations here, ever since you took over, they've always been high.
Absolutely, and I'm so blessed to have had the opportunity to be Coach Steck's assistant, and he really gave me a lot of opportunity. I mean, he knew he was on the backside of his career when he hired me, and really gave me the keys to the bus. I mean, he didn't want to go to budget meetings anymore, so he said, you go to budget meetings, you recruit, you do this, you do that, and really what he was doing was setting me up to take over. And, it does not take long when you're an athlete in our program or you're on deck inside that pool to look at all the banners and all the years of history of championship teams that have been in that facility. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a real standard that we're wanting to continue to elevate.
You've got, you and Chelsea have been here for a while now, but you've got a new assistant coach on the team, but not new to the team because it's a former swimmer of yours.
Right. Anna Miller is she joined us in about November last year as kind of an interim coach, and quickly realized that this was going to be something she wanted to do. She was coming from sitting at a desk in St. Louis, and we just knew. I knew when she was an athlete here, she'd be a great coach. You just kind of get that sense about people. But when she told me she was moving back to Springfield, and if I knew of any jobs that might be available for her, she's got her MBA. I thought, yeah, hey, you want to come join us on the pool deck? And I think she said, hey, I mean, I'll come give it a shot. And she's just been great with our athletes. She's one of the most decorated, if not the most decorated athlete we've ever had here. She's going to be a Hall of Famer when her time comes around. And she's just got great rapport with the athletes. And she's a natural at it, and we're just so happy to have her.
You guys just had kind of one of your big fundraisers a year or two coming off your golf event. How many folks did you have out for that? And
we had a blast. We had 17 teams. It is an absolute fun time, and it's great. I think it's fun because it's very easy to get all the teams recommitted each year. I just say, I give them the date and they say we wouldn't miss it. So we had a blast. The weather was good. The golf was probably subpar, but fun was had.
Well, it definitely would have been subpar if I had been playing. We'll see whether or not I get Jesse to bring me along with him next year for that or not. But so everything gets started this weekend at the Hammond Student Center pool, the Bears and Southern Illinois. And we were talking about this before we started the interview about maroon and the color of maroon, and I find it so ironic that you have 2 teams that you're passionate about, and both of them kind of share the same color. I didn't know this until the last couple of days, but you're a big Texas A&M guy.
Grew up in South Texas. My parents and a lot of my family went to Texas A&M, and as far back as I can remember, I mean, we planned meals around when the Aggie game was, and my grandma even snuck under a hole in the fence to get into the Cotton Bowl. So, I mean, we're in it. I mean, it's been a tough It's been a tough team to be a fan of at times. I feel like, but we'll see. Maybe this is our year.
Well, I say it's definitely a good year. Hopefully next year isn't your year, but I definitely got to find a spot for you. Talk to Coach Beard about finding a spot for you on the plane so you can make the trip to A&M with the football team next year.
If they need me to do laundry, I'll get water for the guys. I'll sit in a suitcase on a plane. I mean, I'd love to be at that. I mean, that would be neat, because being able to watch the Bears compete against the Aggies and that would be fun.
Hey, you wear maroon, you can't go wrong either way, right?
I would be wearing Bears stuff there.
Good, Coach. Thank you. Coach Dave Collins joining us here on MoState Update. We're going to step aside. We'll switch gears, jump out of the pool and over to the football stadium, talk a little football after the break. Welcome back to MoState Update, everybody, here in suite number 13 inside Great Southern Bank Arena, our temporary home here for episode number 25. Thrilled now to talk Missouri State football with the man who is the defensive coordinator for the Bears this season. His name is L.D. Scott. Coach Scott joins us now. Coach, how are we doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I would be doing a lot better if we could have pulled it out last week, but we're working hard, and we're going to get back on the winning track.
How odd is it right now for you guys to kind of, scheduling and routine is so important for a team, whether it's football, basketball, whatever. How much of a swing is it all of a sudden? I think people look at this week as like a bye week for you guys, but it probably doesn't feel like a bye week because you got to turn around and play on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but I've actually experienced it as a player. I played in the old Big East, and we were kind of the pioneers of the Thursday night games. So I understand, what it takes to basically get better in this short period of time, and that's kind of what we're all just focused on.
Wanted to ask you a question about off the field and the concept of family. A lot gets made, especially in these national TV broadcasts, because they're not used to it like the fans and the folks here at Missouri State are. But you and Kelsey, Ryan and Katie, Nick, just this concept of how much of the family is here and entrenched in Missouri State football. How important, how often are you talking about family, like with your players on the defensive side of the ball?
A lot. That's kind of a huge benefit that we have here is that we are family and we are all on the same page. We all have the same goals. We all want the best for each other. And, it's something that our players know. It's a reason why a lot of them came here. They know we're not, looking for our next job. This is home for us, and we've built something here, and we're going to continue to make it better.
When you came here in 2020, you had a real reputation as one of the top recruiters in the country. And I'm curious, with the changes that have gone on since COVID, with NIL, with the transfer portal and all the things that make college sports different now, how much harder of a job is it to be a recruiter, to get a guy in, than maybe it was when you started?
It's difficult, but it's difficult for everyone because we're all learning at the same time. Rules are changing, and more rules are about to change. And it's kind of slowed down, your normal process of recruiting and kind of how you find your guys. And I think we've found our niches. We were big in the portal early on. We were big in junior college kids early on. And now we've kind of reverted back to recruiting high school kids. And we think that's where some of our best players are going to come from in our next recruiting class.
In getting ready for sitting down and talking with you, I went back, I was looking through your bio, your time at Louisville as a player. This move to Conference USA gives Missouri State the opportunity to have something, a carrot, if you will, at the end. Not the playoffs, but the concept of a bowl game. You got to play and win, the Orange Bowl? Mm-hmm. How often is that a conversation at any point right now with the players, or is that something that you guys just have as a goal and look forward to giving these guys an opportunity maybe to get to a bowl game, something that you got to experience as a player?
So that's a great point because a bowl game was one of my best experiences in college football. It's unbelievable. Just going to different destinations with your team and playing a good opponent, one that you probably normally wouldn't meet up against. and your family's there. There's gifts, there's unlimited food, there's sometimes you're on a beach. It's unbelievable. And I've told our players it'll be one of the greatest things they do here once we get to that threshold. But I don't think we're far off.
Well, when you talk about the opportunity being there and understanding that per the transition rule, Missouri State's not supposed to be eligible for a bowl game this year, but there is precedent that if you got to 6 wins and there were not enough other 6-win teams out there, that you could get invited to a bowl game. So that would, of course, be a very unique experience. But I was looking at your college playing days, and then I didn't realize that you spent some time in the Canadian Football League. What was that experience like? What was it like playing football north of the border? Because it is a slightly different game with a different field and a different feel.
It's a little different. It's still football. Guys are still flying around, hitting. They throw the ball a lot more up there. They play with 12 people on the field up there. There's no lateral and illegal touch rules, so you can kind of slap the ball around and it's and then they have all the different motions and guys moving around pre-snap. All of those things were a little different, but in the end, it was still football. And so I was up there for 1 year in Winnipeg. It was a good experience. I enjoyed it, and then I kind of got the bug for coaching. So
when you get, as you call it, the bug for coaching, you decide this is what you want to do and the path you want to go down. I can't imagine that that's an easy door to get kicked open, and you have to rely on people that have been in your life or you have been in their orbit at times. How did you get started?
Well, I've always had the right resources around me. My mentor was a longtime coach. I've always had a good relationship with Coach Petrino, and just understanding that if I really wanted to get into coaching, that he would help me. And when it came time, I decided I was done doing what was best for me. Me playing football, that was what I loved doing. It was what I wanted to continue doing. But I had just started a family, and I thought it was time to do what was best for them.
Bobby didn't try to talk you out of going into coaching?
No, he did make me earn my way into coaching.
Well, sure. I get that. But I find it ironic. I work with a guy, and he's still here in the market, Hall of Fame broadcaster Dan Lucy. And I remember talking to Dan early on, and he said his job with interns, he felt like if you wanted to work in television sports, his job was to try and scare them off and run them off, because it is a crazy grind. You work nights, you work weekends, you work holidays, all these things. The schedule is just something that a lot of people can't understand. It's an awful lot like a coach's schedule.
So my first experience into getting into coaching was in the weight room at Arkansas. So I started out as a strength and conditioning intern. I wanted to be a GA, but that opportunity wasn't there. So I took the opportunity that could get me to my next opportunity. And my first day on the job at Arkansas as a strength intern was to unload the semi-truck from the Sugar Bowl versus Ohio State. I had to unload that truck by myself from all of the weight room equipment they took down there. And they had D linemen and O linemen that benched over 400 pounds, and they were down there for a week. So they took almost all of their weights. They took all of their barbells. And like I said, it was a semi-truck.
You weren't kidding me when you said he made you earn it.
Yes. No, that was my, the strength and conditioning coach who also know very well, Coach Velkamp. He's actually the guy at Western Kentucky right now. So I saw him over the weekend. But he just told me, hey, you got to empty this truck. You got all week, so take your time. And that was my first few days of work at Arkansas. It was hard.
No, wait a minute. He gave you all week. How many days did you complete it in?
It took me 3 days. 3 days from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Wow, that is insane. Well, when I look back at you coming to Springfield back in the 2020-2021 season, you were working with the defensive line at that point in time. The defensive line was maybe the best it's ever been in those first 2 years. You guys set a new sack record. You turned around, you set another sack record a year or two later. You were getting after the quarterback. I'm just curious, what makes or what helps disguise a good blitz? When you're trying to get a pass rush together and trying to get into the offensive backfield, what's one of the most important things about not letting the quarterback know what's coming?
So it's a lot about the quarterback, and you kind of want to show him some different things in the back end, but it's really about the offensive line.
Okay.
You know, and you want to understand how they like to protect certain looks. So when you self-scout or you scout an offensive line and an offensive coordinator, you see how he likes to, you know, block certain looks, and you give him these looks so that he anticipates something, and then you give him something else. So that's kind of, you know, pass rushing for me, it's all about deception. You know, you want to show blitz on the left and then blitz on the right. You know, you want to show a balanced look, and then you bring an overload look. So that's kind of where it all comes from is a little bit of deception.
So in the business of coaching, you start unloading the weight truck is job one. You work your way up. You get the opportunity to be a position coach. Now you're the defensive coordinator of Missouri State. How different is that job from the previous jobs that you had on other coaching staffs?
It's been a learning experience. My first year as coordinator here, we didn't play very well. We weren't very good, and that's coaching. You know, so I got back to the fundamentals. I think I saw Coach Petrino just talked about in his introductory press conference that they were going to get back to the fundamentals of stance, tackling, and it really came down to those little things. You know, and you know we saw it early on in the season versus USC. We didn't get lined up very well. We didn't tackle very well, and that's how you get blown out like that. And so we went back to the basics, worked on tackling, and you know, leverage. You know, just those small details that really decide games.
Well, you say now you talk about Bobby's press conference. He hasn't called you because I saw he fired like 3 defensive guys. You're good, right?
Well, I'm great. I'm great at Missouri State. We're doing really well here. We believe that we can win here. We think, you know, the best is yet to come. So we're doing well.
I believe it. I'm very defensive of you guys. I got friends calling me and texting me saying, "Oh, did you see Coach Petrino this?" I'm like, no, I need these guys to stay here. We've got a good thing going right now, and that's great. You had a great guy here your first couple of years, Eric Johnson, who's now in the NFL, been playing with the Indianapolis Colts. Do you try? I'm sure it's hard during the season, but do you try to stay in touch with those guys, former players like EJ?
Absolutely. I talk to Eric probably every other week.
Okay.
You know, I talk to him a lot about how he's doing, what I'm seeing, and then I also try to get information from him, you know, about I really respect his defensive line coach up there. He's a longtime college coach and one of the best. So I'm always trying to learn as well, you know, new drills from him. But, yes, no, Eric is doing really, really well. I was very happy for him making it to his 4th year. You know, now he's, you know, vested in the NFL retirement plan, and his next contract should be a really big one. And, you know, so I've told him dinner is on him next time I see him. But I'm also working on trying to get him back for hopefully homecoming this year.
Oh, that would be incredible. He was definitely one of my favorite interviews. A cerebral guy.
He's very unique. I'll say unique.
Didn't have any problems talking about what he was thinking about. So, you know, he's at that level now, performing and looking for that next big contract. The guys that you're working with now, who's maybe surprised you this year that stepped up along that defensive line?
So Devon Townley he's done a really, really good job of progressing and getting better from his time here. You know, he was a highly recruited kid out of high school, and things didn't go well at his previous school. And last year things didn't go as well as he thought they would be initially. But he didn't pout. You know, he didn't enter the portal. He just kept working. He trusted in what I'm coaching him. And right now he doesn't have great production, but he's playing really, really well.
He's got one of my favorite interceptions of the season, though. Big man INTs, coach. Get the play-by-play guy excited when he takes it down the sideline and goes like that.
So that was an awesome play for him. It was a rough week of practice for him. He had some back tightness that limited his amount of reps in practice, but he did a great job of staying focused and locked in mentally. And when I did go through pregame warmups with him, I saw that he was ready to play, and that gave me the confidence to put him in, even though he didn't practice much this week. That week.
And correct me if I'm wrong here. I may be, you know, there's 100 guys on the roster. Sometimes I get confused, but this is a young man at Devon that was recruited, you know, big schools. Penn State had him, but he didn't have as long a history in playing organized football as a lot of guys that are playing Division I football. He thought his future was in basketball, right, and kind of was a late comer to football.
Yes, I think he was a really good basketball player.
Yeah.
I played on one of the top AAU teams up in, I think, in the Minneapolis area. But Devon, I think he started playing football either his sophomore or junior year.
Yeah.
And that's late. That's really, really late.
I was going to say, when did you start playing football?
I started playing in 7th grade.
Yeah.
So I didn't play early, but I'm from Alabama, so we played football at every high school football game from when I was a kid. We just played out there in the grass. So
Well, the big guys were playing.
Oh yeah. So I didn't play organized football until 7th grade.
Well, what's preparation look like this week now? The Western Kentucky game, the first Conference USA game for the Bears, that's in the rear view. Now you move to this weekday CUSA schedule. You're getting ready for Middle Tennessee. They have struggled out of the gate to start the season, but there's no weeks off in this league. You got to get ready for everybody in the Blue Raiders or who's next.
Absolutely. They've struggled, and I think they're a program that their coach is going to have a lot of pride. They're going to be at home. They're going to understand that our quarterback got injured. They're going to have a chip on their shoulder, thinking that they can get a good win at home. And we got to be road warriors. We got to do that again, just like we did versus Marshall. It doesn't matter what they do. We got to come in and play Bears football. So we got to swarm on defense. We got to create explosive plays on offense. We got to be sound on special teams. And if we continue doing what we've done in practice this week, we'll go and get a win.
All right. Well, good luck against Middle Tennessee. Coach L.D. Scott joining us here on the podcast. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll flip around and go to the offensive side of the ball. Talk a little bit more Bears football after this. Welcome back to MoState Update, the official podcast of Missouri State Athletics. Everybody, Corey Riggs, thrilled to be joined now by the offensive coordinator for Missouri State Bears football, Nick Petrino. And Nick, there is just so much going on right now. The program is in what is a historic season. Your dad has got a ton going on right now with changes down at Arkansas. I mean, I know that football is kind of in your DNA and kind of the fabric of your family, but this has got to be, just kind of a crazy time for everybody right now.
Yeah, it is kind of a crazy time. It's exciting. It's a really exciting time as well. It's kind of hectic at times, but yeah, with us moving up to FBS, it's been a really fun year. It's fun being able to go against new opponents and kind of seeing new defenses and new structures, and obviously with my dad down at Arkansas, really excited for him. He's looking forward to it. He's excited about it, and I'm happy to see how he'll do the rest of the year.
I was thinking about this going back through your bio and everything, and for people that don't know, it's come up the last couple of games because there's been some guys from Trinity High School, your high school, that have popped up both on the Bears side of the ball and on the opposition. And thinking back to you playing and winning 2 state titles, but growing up as Bobby Petrino's son, I wondered, did you ever walk into to the coach's office or to an offensive meeting in high school and be like, hey, my dad runs this play. You think we should give this a try?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was pretty much a coach on the field when I was in high school, but I had 2 good offensive coordinators there. But yeah, there was times I brought stuff to them and we ended up running it, or they might see stuff on TV and ask me about it, and I'd bring in exactly kind of what it was. But yeah, there was definitely situations like that.
That's a crazy spot to be in as a high school kid, to walk in and be like, hey, coach, take a look at this. Maybe we should be able to. You must have had a coach that had a really good relationship with you at that age.
Yeah, I did, yeah. And my junior year, the guy that was actually my offensive coordinator was a GA for my dad the year before.
Okay.
So he kind of knew my dad's offense a little bit. And then the guy after, his name was Andrew Coverdell, and he was just a really good coach. I'm still in good, he's still a good friend of mine. Well,
I know in your career, obviously, with your father, you spent time at Louisville. You were there 3-4 seasons. In that peak time, I was thinking about it because I watched the Chiefs game. I watched Lamar. What was it in your guys' time there with him, that Heisman Trophy run and everything else. What was it? Do you remember something that you thought, man, this guy is special? And what kind of stood out to you for him at the college level before he made the jump to the NFL?
I mean, it was probably when he was a true freshman.
Really?
When he came in as a true freshman and probably one of our first scrimmages, and obviously, we had to work with him a lot as a passer, but you could see that he could naturally throw the ball. He had a really good throwing motion. He had a natural wrist. He just didn't know how to play quarterback position very well, just with being able to drop and the ball handling and play actions and certain stuff like that. That was one thing we had to really he really improved between his freshman and sophomore year. But, just his athleticism, first day he walked on campus, probably the first scrimmage where he pulled a zone read and took off and ran, and you could just see, yeah, this kid's special. He's got something that a lot of guys don't have.
We'll talk about it as we move on about the last couple of games and stuff. But you were forced into a situation this past week against Western Kentucky where you had to put in a young true freshman quarterback. And I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but there seems to be some similarities between Deuce Bailey, the Bears' young quarterback, and the guy that you and your dad had so much success with there at Louisville and Lamar Jackson. And that's a very heady comparison, I know, but I feel like there's some similar skills there.
No, there definitely is. And, that's one thing. Like, I have familiarity in being in an offense like that where it's more quarterback run driven. And so even though we haven't been practicing a lot, because Jacob obviously is not a running quarterback, he's more where we have to run the ball with our running backs. And so even though we haven't been practicing a lot of those type of plays, it's very easy to get back into it just because you've had history running that type of offense. So even though we didn't practice, some of those plays, we were able to get to them because, we have history, not even just me, but other guys on our coaching staff like Coach Halpin. Of being able to know how to run an offense with a quarterback that can run instead of one who can't run at all.
There is nothing I hate more than injuries in the game of football, because I know that night, and we're talking about Jacob Clark, the Bears quarterback, watching the game from where I was watching it, I thought for sure if he had an injury, it was a concussion. We got reports from the field that they felt like he fell on the football and might have had the wind knocked out of him.
Yeah.
And come to find out, none of those things are true. So what can you share on Jacob's condition right now and any sort of timeline for his return?
Yeah, because I was kind of shocked too, because it happened so fast. Just with him coming out, because obviously he runs the ball, he gets hit, he goes in the tent. I'm thinking maybe he has a concussion too. I walk in there and no, he's good. His helmet, his head's good, everything's fine. So then I got him for the next drive, right? And we're about to go out for the next drive. Jacob's standing right next to me, and he just takes a step, and he was like, "Oh, my knee." And it just happened that fast.
Oh, man.
He was about to walk on the field for the drive, and he's just like, "Oh, my knee. It's like I can't go." And I just had to grab him. Like, that's how fast it happened. It wasn't like we were prepared for it for that drive, that last drive of the second half. We just had to throw him in because we thought Jacob was going to be able to go.
That's crazy. When you talk about being an offensive coordinator, and obviously we've talked about this kind of being in your blood and everything, there are some guys that are sideline guys. Some people like to be up in the box, up in the booth, getting that sort of all 22 look. Why are you a sideline guy? Why do you want to be down there?
Yeah, I think it would probably be easier to call the game from the press box, but I like being on the sideline, just being able to communicate with the quarterbacks, be able to talk with them, sit down and go through the series with them, with how we have the iPads now, and just be able to communicate with the whole offense. So that's kind of when I'd probably be easier to call a game from the press box, but just all those different aspects, that's why I like being on the sideline, just being able to communicate with the quarterback more, and I can still see it pretty well from the sideline too.
Speaking of communication, all this conversation about moving to Conference USA, moving to FBS football, not a lot has been made about the ability to communicate with the green dot, with the helmets and the speakers and everything. I assume there was a little bit of a learning curve to that. And what sort of value do you feel as the offensive coordinator that brings to what you can communicate to Jacob pre-snap?
Yeah, I mean, it helped us a lot, especially this last game, especially with Deuce going in. Because obviously with Jacob, I know he knows the offense more. So most of the time I just tell him to play, and I kind of expect he knows what he's doing. But later in the game, when it was deucing, I was able to like kind of tell him the play and also tell him kind of where he's thinking he's going with the ball. And I probably should have done it even more. There was a couple plays where I didn't do it, and he messed up. And so it was just, but that's where it helps out a lot more, especially with the young guy. But like I said, even with Jacob, I don't talk as much because I expect that he knows what he's doing.
Well, I've asked him, Nick, on different occasions. I think he and I talked about it on the Coaches Show a couple of weeks back. I asked him, when Coach Petrino is in your ear telling you the play, how often do you know the play before he tells you? And he was cautiously optimistic at about 80% of the time. He's like, that's got to be a great feeling when your quarterback knows where you're going before you even get there.
Right, yeah, and that's big, and especially in situational football, like short yardage, goal line stuff. I always make our quarterbacks basically memorize the plays. Like back when we used to even signal, there'd be times where they would see even just the formation, and they would turn around because they already know exactly what the play is, and that's what you want. That's how prepared you want your quarterbacks to be, that they know, they memorize what the game plan is.
When you scheme for a game, and we'll just use like Western Kentucky as an example, I always hear coaching staffs talk about, well, on the offense, we script X number of plays. Do you guys script plays? And if so, how many? And honestly, is there anything that will bump you off the scripting if it's, say, the first 20 plays?
So we always, for the first half, we script our first 8 plays. So we just have a first 8. The only thing that would get me off of that is situational stuff, like if we ever end up coming out or, even within the drives, third downs obviously would get you off of that, depending on the situation. But most of the time, that just different situational stuff or third downs. Those are really the only thing that gets you off. And then the second half, we always really just script our first 6 plays.
Okay.
But it's still kind of the same kind of situational thing. If something came up within the drive, then I might get off of it. But most of the time, I try to stay on it.
What's the biggest? I'm sure there are multiple factors in the plays that you pick. Is it plays that are successful in practice, or is it plays that you believe are going to be successful against the defensive front you're going to be shown by, say, the Hilltoppers? What kind of goes into making that 6-8 play list?
Yeah, a lot of it is what you're seeing, what you think the defense is doing. Some of it also is players, who you're trying to get the ball to, whether you're trying to get the ball to a certain receiver or a certain running back. Sometimes you're trying to get the ball in players' hands. But yeah, a lot of it is based off what the defense is doing or what's worked well or what hasn't worked well, especially for that second half part of it.
Is the playbook, is that kind of a living document? Do you go into the season with a set number of plays? Does it expand as the season moves on? Are you always working on plays?
Yeah, we're always putting new stuff in every week. It's kind of like a base of the playbook, and that's what we build from every week. But yeah, there's stuff you see that the defense does, or stuff you see that maybe people have done well against them, and you might add certain little things into your offense every week. But usually there's still a base of the offense that it's built around every week.
So, and I'm sure I'm going to leave something out, but, Western Kentucky, Tennessee Martin, Arkansas, obviously here at Missouri State, Louisville, you've had all these different coaching stops. Is there one that you can think about, one stop where you feel like you have grown the most as a coach?
Yeah, I'd probably say Louisville and then here. Those are probably the two biggest ones. Louisville, as far as me more becoming a position coach and really learning the offense more, really probably more the running game. That's when I really learned the running game when I was at Louisville. And then here, really just, being my first offensive coordinator job and learning how to really do that and, and try to excel at that. So I'd probably say Louisville and then here, yeah.
Well, I say that I asked LD moments ago, this swing now to these Wednesday nights. Coaches, football players, and teams, you all are such creatures of habit. How much of a bump in the road is this? Because everybody, I think, looks at it on the schedule this week, Coach, and says, we've got a bye week. Well, no, you really don't. Because you still got to get ready for a Wednesday night game. It's not that much of a break.
Right, yeah. We still practiced yesterday. We'll still practice today. And, yeah, it's a little of a different time window, but when you really get into it, like for us, like Sunday is going to be a Tuesday for us. And really in my mind, that will be probably Tuesday. And then the next day will be Wednesday. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday will actually be Wednesday. So it's, even though it's kind of
just a sliding scale.
You just slide it over. In my mind, those are still Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday practices, and that's what the day is, even though it's not that. But that's the mindset we got to have. You know, we can't let our players go out on this weekend and think they can just go have a lot of fun. No, like Saturday is a normal Monday for us. Sunday will be a Tuesday practice. So they got to be ready to practice, have a hard practice on Tuesday. So we just got to get that in our mindset that even though it's a little different schedule, we got to still stay, you know, within how we do stuff normally in a normal game week.
It's not everybody just goes home for the weekend and does what they want and come back.
Yep, exactly.
It's a sliding schedule, if you will. So you get ready now for Middle Tennessee, and this is a game now that because of what happened to Jacob, I assume that will adjust kind of the plans as far as reps and practice and whether or not Deuce is seeing more reps, Cole, and then how long you have to wait before you know more on Jacob. So that's kind of got to make this work period right now kind of up in the air, right?
Yeah, and it also helps us a little bit too, just having the extra time, you know, because it helps Jacob get healthier. It also helps us be able to prepare those other guys if they have to end up playing. You know, just having a couple extra days gives them more extra days of reps, you know. And that's what it all comes down to, repetition. Repetition is the father of learning. That's how you do everything. So with getting those extra days, it really helps out. You know, if Jacob's not ready, it really helps out with those younger quarterbacks. But it also gives him a little extra time to get ready. So, and even how we're doing it back to back to back, like I hate that Jacob got hurt, but just the timing of it helps us out a little bit more.
Yeah, I say there's no good time for an injury, but this is a better time maybe than any other week during the season. This and maybe one other one later in October. Well, I just want to tell you before we wrap this up, I know you probably don't come out to the coaches' shows or listen to anything else, but the constant conversation that I have, whether it's with Coach Beard, whether it's with fans and stuff, they all just rave about the job that you're doing and the play calling, and just everybody is blown away with it, man. So keep up the good work. We appreciate you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Corey.
That's Missouri State Offensive Coordinator Nick Petrino. We're going to take a final break, come back and run you through this week's schedule of what's going on campus here in Springfield at Missouri State. All of that coming up after this here on MoState Update. Well, that'll about wrap things up for this episode of MoState Update. But, boy, there is a lot of stuff going on at campus this Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You definitely want to mark it down on your calendars and come check it out with us. There is something for everybody. Starting this Friday at 8 a.m., Missouri State Tennis will be at home hosting the MoState Invitational. That play will get underway as early as 8 a.m. out at the Cooper Tennis Complex. Meanwhile, you heard from Coach Dave Collins earlier. Missouri State Swimming is hosting Southern Illinois Friday, October 3rd. That one will start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then next door in Hammond Student Center on the floor there at 6 o'clock, it's more Conference USA volleyball with Missouri State playing host to Western Kentucky. So the Bears and the Hilltoppers met last week in football. This week they meet in volleyball. That's a 6 o'clock start. And at 7 o'clock out at the Betty and Bobby Allison South Stadium, men's soccer will be hosting FAU with a 7 o'clock start. So your Friday is full. I could fill up your Saturday, too. More tennis starting at 8 a.m. as the MoState Invitational will conclude on Saturday, October 4th. Swimming and diving will go into day 2 against Southern Illinois in the Hammond Student Center pool, but they will begin Saturday at 10 a.m. And then volleyball will have a 1 o'clock in the afternoon match, their second and final against the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers at Hammond Student Center. One event on the calendar on Sunday. Come check out Conference USA women's soccer play as Missouri State women's soccer will host Delaware. That is a noon start at Betty and Bobby Allison South Stadium just across the street here from Great Southern Bank Arena and Hammond Student Center. Hopefully, there is at least one event you want to come out and take part in this weekend. I guarantee you I'm going to make it out to at least one of the volleyball matchups. They've got a Bear Stein giveaway to the first 150 fans in attendance Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday, that women's soccer game against Delaware is a pink out game. That game will also be available streaming on ESPN Plus. I will be there for that one. Matter of fact, I think I need to order a new pink shirt off of Amazon to wear and hopefully get it here in time for Sunday. So mark those down on your calendars. Should be a lot of fun, a very busy weekend on campus here at Missouri State. I want to again thank our guests on this show, three of them, with both the offensive and defensive coordinator for Missouri State football, Nick Petrino, and LD Scott joining us, and of course the head coach of men's and women's swimming and diving here at the university, Dave Collins. Always great to catch up with Coach Collins. It's always great to catch up with you all. Thanks for downloading, listening, watching to this podcast. We'll try to be back with more entertaining content for you next week. But until next time, I'm Corey Riggs saying so long from Springfield. This has been your MoState Update.
You've been listening to the MoState Update with Corey Riggs. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Missouri State Sports Network.